Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Halsey, and I'm the event specialist here at Enterprise DB. I will be your host today for our webinar, Oracle Migration to Postgres in the Cloud. I'm joined by Marc Linster, Senior Vice President of Product Development and Support, and as well as Kanchan Mohitey, Director of Cloud Services. Before we get started, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded. We will be sharing the recording along with the slides after the broadcast. The lines are currently muted. If you have a question, please feel free to submit it in the question panel. Today's session is scheduled for 1 hour. We expect the presentation to last most of our time today, and we will allot any extra time for Q&A. We do not have time to address all questions. We will follow up afterwards with any attendee whose questions were not answered. And now, without further ado, here are Marc and Kanchan.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, so let me just briefly show you the agenda for today. So I'm going to spend I promise, just a few minutes on who is EDB, and then we're going to dive into Postgres in the cloud. What does that mean and how can you use it? Then we'll do several hands-on demos, one about the cloud database service. We'll show you exactly how to set it up, and we'll walk you through how to do this, basically at no charge, no credit card needed. So you can follow all the examples that we're going to give here at the end of this presentation. We're going to do a hands-on migration demo to show you how to go from an Oracle database all the way to Postgres in the cloud, including the stored procedures, the data, etc. So we hope all that the demos are working. So Kanchan and I sacrificed several donuts to the gods of demo before starting this. And so let's get into the webinar. So first, who is EDB? Well, we're a worldwide company that has offices around the world, and we are really the leader in the Postgres space. So in this space, we are recognized by Gartner and Forrester. I'll talk about that for a minute afterwards. We've been around for now 15 years, and we're really the largest single Postgres contributor. And have a global customer base of over 4,000 customers with over 300 employees in 16 offices around the world. So if you look at us today, there's a lot of customers that have committed to working with EDB and EDB Postgres especially. So 102 of the Fortune 500, many of the Global 2000. So you can see here names from every region of the world that are using Postgres, and they're not just using Postgres for a little app on a laptop or under a developer's desk. Many of these are running very serious production applications of very large databases and very high TPS ratings in these environments. So Postgres, we're not just working commercially with Postgres or bringing Postgres into large companies. We are also a major contributor to the open source community. Here you'll see, our core team members, Bruce and Dave, who've been with Postgres for many years. Bruce for over 20 years, Dave for over 10 years. And then you see many of the other names that you'll see when you look into Postgres, when you go to a Postgres conference or look at the hackers list. You'll see names like Andres, Robert, Amit, Devram, Thomas, and many of the other contributors. So important for us is that yes, we're very active in commercializing Postgres, but we're equally active in supporting the open source development. So enough about EDB. You'll see that we've, as I said, we've been here for a while and working with large companies, and now we're helping our customers move to Postgres in the cloud, and that's what today's webinar is all about. I'll encourage you after this webinar, so not during the webinar, to try the EDB Postgres database service for free. It's a no obligation. Just go in there, experience Postgres, experience clustering, backup recovery, point-in-time recovery. All of that Kanchan will walk you through in more detail. So The big advantages here that I want you to walk away with at the end of this webinar is this is a Postgres service hosted in the public cloud. You can consume it on demand or reserved, meaning you don't have to make a big commitment. But if you make a big commitment, obviously, it's highly available, and also the cost will come down if you commit to it. But then the way we built this is it has built-in high availability and is extremely easy to use. You'll see that setting up a cluster or providing point-in-time recovery, any of those capabilities is really just a click away. Exciting about this are two things. The Oracle compatibility. We've invested heavily into creating an Oracle-compatible version of Postgres that can talk natively PLSQL, natively can talk to packages, supports functions, store procedures, cursors, etc., and we'll walk you through an example that does exactly that. Has hints, native drivers that make it look like the application is talking to Oracle, etc. So Oracle compatibility is really a key thing that I want you to understand, because most of our customers, they are coming from Oracle and are looking for a way to move to the cloud, move to Postgres in the cloud. So Oracle compatibility is very important. And then it's true Postgres, meaning we have the same Postgres everywhere, whether you use our Postgres in the cloud, on premises, on Azure, on AWS, it doesn't matter. It's always the same Postgres, and it's completely available to the DBA. So it's not that somebody else is root on your database, which is the case on the major cloud database services. With EDB Postgres, even in the cloud, you're actually the root on the database. So now I'm going to hand it over to Kanchan to give you a demo of the EDB Postgres Cloud Database Service and walk you through what it takes to set up a highly resilient cluster.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, everybody can see my screen? Okay, so I'm going to do a demo and show that that in minutes you can launch the most resilient Postgres cluster in cloud, and it's simple and it's just a matter of few minutes. To start with, go to enterprisedb.com. On the cloud menu, it's the cloud database service. This page has all the details that Mark just mentioned, talked about the features, what are the options available, the pricing, the different pricing models that we have, on-demand pay-as-you-go versus the reserve instance model. I'm going to show all this in my demo. So let's get started. If you already, to launch a cluster, you need to register on the website. If you already have an account with us, great. If not, just create an account and use it to log in. So I already have an account I had created in the earlier, so I'm just going to use it to log into the cloud database service. So while it's logging in, I mean, CDS we had launched in late 2018. This is the second generation effort. EDB was first to launch Postgres in the cloud before RDS did actually. So this is since last year, since December when we launched Cloud Database Service. This, I would say, as I said, it's the next generation effort. So we've been adding new features regularly to the service, and if you see that you request or looking for any specific feature request, just send us an email, let us know. We are open for feedbacks going from there. So as you see, I'm already into the cloud database service. This is the management part of it, but let's get the cluster rolling first. At present, we have the service is available in 6 different regions across US, Europe, and Asia. So you can launch clusters in any of this region. I'm going to start with US East. So using the same ID is going to take me to the console. I have a few running clusters here, but I'm going to create a new cluster. As Mark said, we'd made it really easy. We have defined templates, which would be read scale, which would be developer templates, which are production use case templates. So I'm going to show that let's use templates, which is going to be just a click of button, and you can get your cluster up and running. It's just name the cluster, choose the template that those are available for you, and they would automatically choose. So just quickly talk about the different kinds of templates out of the box which are available. The developer template, when I said it's just one node master, which is going to be available if you're looking for more of a production read scale, it will automatically add the replicas. It's going to choose the appropriate instance size. You can always check what my template details are. So as I had chosen the production department read scale one, it's chosen the M5 server class. It has the nodes available right out of the box, encryption options, IOPS, backups, everything is all set for you. So choose the template you're looking for, and just get started from there. It's just a matter of clicking launch, and the cluster will launch right here, as you can see. While the cluster is being launched, I would like to talk about the various options that we have on the cloud database service right now. So I'll quickly go through the various cluster operations that you can perform, and what are my detailed tabs options here, and we'll take it from there. So as you saw, I mean, initially you launched a cluster, all the details that are available, the database username, what was the storage size, which region it was launched, what is the server class, which Postgres version was chosen, it shows right here. In addition, as the database automation option that Mark just mentioned, failover is configured out of the box. It allows you to, by default, production instance is always going to be a multi-node instance, so existing replica would replace the master in case of any failover event that might occur, be it the database went down, or maybe the Amazon AZ itself is down, or something on those lines. So cluster healing mode, it gives you an option to choose from. Not only that, elastic scale out allows you to choose the storage threshold that you want to set. That okay, my storage for this cluster, if it goes, suppose for the example right here, if it goes beyond, it's already 62%, and if I said that okay, if it goes beyond 76, auto scaling should happen immediately. I don't have to monitor it right away. Once the threshold is reached, the auto scaling will kick in, and it would automatically add the storage. I'll be showing you the demo as well. And similarly, the auto scaling option. So if the server connections are increased, I mean, I've just reduced it to here. So whatever the default is, if it's increased beyond the limit, the threshold would be reached, and it would add an replica to load balancing. So load balancing happens, read load balancing happens between the read scale replicas in this. While going through it, again, scale up options, you can, or this was the auto scaling options that we talked about, but not necessarily. You have an option that, okay, I decide to add an additional instance. So you can always add the number of replicas you want. You can decide which availability zone, so that to make sure that it is highly available. By default, CDS makes sure that master and standbys are always in different availability zones, so that high availability part is taken care of. You can always anytime add storage via this option. Scale down again gives you the same option. I don't want any of the replicas going there, so I just choose, and I can remove the replica from there. Backups, again, I have an option to take backup, but there are scheduled backup options available right out of the box, where you choose what is based on your organization backup retention policies. You can choose how many backups you want to retain, what should be the backup window that would happen. It allows you the PITR backup options, and the recovery, it allows you the PITR recovery as well. So just click on recover, and the option is right there where it allows you to choose from the PITR backup, you can recover the cluster. So it's just one click thing. It's easy administration, everything available right there for you. Clone, as the name suggests, I mean, production instance, if you want to clone and give it to your development team or your ops team to perform any operation, it's just clone an existing database and you can take it from there. Upgrades, again, if you see here, the exclamation mark shows that, okay, some updates are available. So you decide your update timings, and we give upgrade options both for major minor version of databases, OS upgrade, and if you decide, because I had launched and EPAS version 10 and EPAS version 11 is available, I can always upgrade at my timing and depending on the suitable time for my organization. All these instances you can always connect, use any of the, either it could be a pSQL client, pgadmin, you can connect to the instance, and accordingly, if the standard settings are not suitable for your use case, you can use change the postgres.conf parameters, use the alter system command to change specific parameters, and use the reload and restart database option. That would help you take those into effect. Admin settings, any cluster operations that are happening, the notification email which is configured here is going to receive all the monitoring or status email for any of the cluster changes. So elastic scale out happened, so database server stopped, failover started, all this is going to take send us an email for all the options. Covering that, we saw for that particular cluster, we saw the details right here. We have basic monitoring graphs which will show you what is the data space. This is the threshold that I've set, and storage I'm still good with for this cluster. The number of connections and the load average, which is the basic necessary data points for any of the users. You can see it, the time range up to last 2 weeks. So that gives you an ability to check into it. And whatever the cluster events, I mean, we just launched a template, so it will show you that cluster was created, what happened, database server started, all the green marks are right there. So how we doing on time? We have a few minutes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going from there, I would want to do the connection limit part, because as with databases, we have seen that the connection threshold auto scaling on that part is important for most of the people. So I'll just set my threshold to the lowest limit here and try to exhaust the connections so that we can see how it takes care of. So I'm just going to run pgbench. I've already set up. I'm going to use pgbench and exhaust the connections. It's for the IP, which is 153. So I've just put in that there, and I'm just going to execute that command. And while that is taking place, we'll check. And I would also want to show the failover demo where we see. So as we can see here, the connections, I had set the threshold to 10, and now the connections had exceeded 10. It has reached the threshold, so it will automatically start adding a replica and try to load balance the number of connections. So, and I would receive an email saying the same thing. It is already showing me that the threshold has been reached, and for this instance, and it has started taking action against it. So while that is being happening, I will also want to show the, failover stuff we can talk about. If the standby being promoted, that because in the cluster healing mode, the option by default we have chosen is the failed replica should be replaced with the existing master. So it will make sure that the replica is promoted as the new master, and EIP is directly assigned. So this will all happen behind the scenes. So I've asked, we are going to stage a failover to show this demo. I've asked one of my colleagues to take some action, and there we can see that promotion of that node has started. What we saw was a replacement has started. This is like replacement of failed primary node has started. It's in progress, and the promotion is right there. So all these actions, you don't have to keep on monitoring in each and every option that is going on. It just happens. It's all configured. It's available out of the box. So what I'm trying to say here is round the clock responsive to unpredictable load demands of your database. It's no need to monitor. It's all taken care of. So basically, CDS not only offers you the power of Postgres, but it also gives you unprecedented amount of control as well. So all this database clusters, how you create clusters is right there. And in addition to that, the ease of use that we were talking about. CDS is meant for an organization to be used. So we have given where the org admins can create various teams, can define they can define the restrictions based on the roles that are assigned to a particular team. So somebody from finance would just be interested in the billing data and invoices and payment details. So we've just assigned them the billing role. They would never be interested in launching clusters. So all these things, it's all available right off the box. You just choose the team and which role you want to assign that team, and accordingly invite users and assign those users to those particular teams. Lastly, I would quickly want to show you about enterprise support. Please note that support is available without any cost as part of your subscription, basically, enterprise support. So, and we are the Postgres company. We have the Postgres experts who would be right behind monitoring you, helping you with the support. So it's just, you can always choose the support right here and take it from there. And lastly, I just want to make sure that the billing models, we have on demand as well as reserved. So once you commit and you know your workloads and you know the instance type, you can always use the reserved instance. You can reserve the instance capacity for a particular period of time, which is 1 or 3 years, and accordingly avail the discount pricing that comes with the reserved instances. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, we'll be answering them in the follow-up questions. I'll just hand it over to Marc.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Kanchan. So while we switch over, key things here, and the message is really to remember that that CDS gives you Postgres out of the box with Oracle compatibility. And makes the management of clusters, so highly available Postgres installations, extremely easy. So all of these things that Kanchan showed you, you could script, but the question is, do you have to? And in this environment, basically, yeah, scalable, read scalable, highly available, point-in-time recovery, team management, all of those capabilities are there. One more thing we want to point out is we have created an online community called Postgres Rocks, and Postgres Rocks is really the place where you could get a lot of your questions, potential questions around how to, not just how to use CDS, but also around how to do migrations, how to get those things answered.
And CDS Help Desk allows you to open the support ticket right from the PGR portal itself. So any questions, in addition to the questions, you can the support team is always there to help you.
All right. So going forward here, now we're going to have a quick survey here. So Molly, please run our survey. Okay. So really what we're trying to find out, and we're going to share the results with everybody, is how are you planning to migrate, right? So there's a bunch of different options, and we'll be really interested to hear what people say. So I can see here that there's a lot of interest to migrate from Oracle on-premises to Postgres in the cloud. It looks like, wow, okay, yeah. So we're getting a lot of participants. We're almost 50% of the people on the webinar have voted by now. Seems to be stabilizing. Okay, so if you want to get your vote in, do it right now. But basically, this is what it looks like. 48% of our participants want to migrate from Oracle on-premise to Postgres in the cloud. 28% want to migrate from Oracle on-premise to Postgres on-premise. Nobody is interested in migrating from another database, so that's, I guess, good news for SQL Server and DB2. And then a little like 29% say they have no migration plans. So it seems like obviously about 71% of our attendants here want to migrate off Oracle, and the majority want to migrate from Oracle to Postgres in the cloud. Okay, and we'll share those results with everybody as part of the mailing that Molly will do after this webinar. Okay, so if you turn it back over to me, please. Okay, all right. Now I just need to know how to do this. Okay, all right. So so now let's talk about how you're going to get from Oracle to Postgres. It's not that straightforward, but it's also not that hard. So there's really 4 building blocks: schema, data, code, and interface. Many people just think about schema and data as actually the easy part. And you can do that with lots of tools, lots of environments. It's pretty straightforward. What you need to think about there is that migrating the data takes a while. So using a change data capture tool such as EDB replication server could be a really good way of cutting down the downtime. But again, schema and data is pretty straightforward. Then the next part, and we'll show you that in our next demo, is what do you do about the code, especially the stored procedures, the packages, and the more advanced proprietary Oracle functionality. So most of the tools don't take care of that. They tell you, well, just go rewrite your code, which often is not an option. And then the last thing is the interfaces. Remember that Oracle's version of let's say the JDBC driver is stored procedure aware, can handle cursors, can handle in-out parameters. So your application will want to talk in-out parameter, cursor, stored procedure, etc. So without those interfaces, yeah, you can migrate the data, maybe rewrite the stored procedures, but now you also have to rewrite your application. So when you do this, think about schema, data, code, and interface. What did we do at EDB? Well, we've invested in Oracle compatibility for the last 15 years because we know that that's the biggest interest. Just like what our survey showed, 71% of our attendees were interested in migrating off of Oracle. So we made a major investment in database compatibility for Oracle, and this is not just a shiny layer on top of Postgres. We actually opened up Postgres quite a bit and added lots of capabilities inside, such as hints, packages, etc. And then since Advanced Server 11 last year, we now also support Pragma Autonomous Transaction which, there really is no workaround in Postgres. If you're stuck with that, you're really in deep doo-doo. And things like DBMS Redact to allow you to do policy-based data redaction. Okay, so you need this capability inside of Postgres, and then you need the database drivers. And again, here we've made major investments. Most of our customers use JDBC. A lot of customers use OCI, so we have an equivalent to OCI called OCL that, again, allows the application to be largely untouched and continue working against the database even after it moved from Oracle to Postgres. Okay, so now what's really important is pick your battles, because Oracle has a whole lot of features, and not all the features are supported in EDB Postgres. But if you pick your migration targets wisely, then 50% of migrations, and this is what our customers have told us, are easy because, there's either no modifications or just minor modifications. So you can get there in a matter of a week or even a couple of days, okay? And then, try to stay away, at least in the beginning, from the ones that are difficult to do because they use some exotic proprietary feature in Oracle. Now, you may say, well, okay, so how do I find out what are my good candidates? Well, I'll give you some external easy guidelines, sort of like the sniff test. And then we'll show you how to use the EDB migration portal for assessing your DDL. So once you use the sniff test to, maybe go to your estate of, let's say, 1,000 Oracle databases to find the ones that apparently might be good candidates, and then you put the rest through the migration assessment in our migration portal to get you more guidelines. So what is easy? Well, if an app uses an ORM, Hibernate or Spring, talks to the database via JDBC, has stored procedures and functions written in PLSQL, that's usually an easy target, right? So that's if you have a lot of those tend to be very easy to do. If you have availability to modify the source code, so if the developers are still around, if there's still somebody who knows the app, that's a good thing. Not that you necessarily need to make a lot of modifications, but be able to talk to somebody who actually knows what the code does and how to help you with functional verification and performance verification. That's important. There are answers to RAC, right? So there are alternatives, Postgres alternatives for RAC, but it's harder to do because RAC's being used for a whole lot of different capabilities. Sometimes performance, most of the time high availability, very, very often DBA convenience. So when RAC is in the game, it requires a bit more analysis, but the majority of situations where we run into RAC, Postgres with things like streaming replication, etc., has pretty good answers to most of the requirements. A hard one is the need for flashback. If your operation must have flashback, not just for convenience, but must have it for some reason, there really is no good answer in Postgres. So more difficult targets. More difficult targets are situations where you use the OCI interface. They're harder to do. Our OCL replacement is pretty good, but OCI is a very, very extensive interface, and we're not covering everything. Spatial and XML data. Oracle Spatial is used a lot. I personally believe that PostGIS is the much better alternative, so the Postgres Geographic Information System extension, but there is no straightforward migration, so there is redesign that's required. And then, Oracle extensions of .NET and ODBC, we don't have as much coverage there as we have with JDBC, so that's something that requires a little bit more analysis. And things are difficult. Well, older apps that use the Pro-C interface for stored procedures, they tend to be difficult for two reasons. One is, well, it's old, and often the people who wrote the original code or the intentions of the original code are no longer known. So doing a migration is really much harder. Sorry about that. Okay, so doing the migration is much harder. And then transaction management inside the stored procedures is also more difficult. And then other Oracle proprietary extensions. I mean, there's not just rack, there's rat, there's compression, there's a whole bunch of proprietary things that Oracle's added. Doesn't mean that you can't do it, but it's more involved. So initially, look for these easy targets, right? Get started there. Now, what's the next thing then? Okay, now you got to migrate and actually move your code and your data. I'll show you how to do that. The migration portal, it's at migration.enterprisedb.com. It's free. Gives you a very, very good tool to actually do that. We've been running this now soon for a year, and I think we've now assessed over 2 million Oracle DDL objects. And so we have collected some pretty good data, and we've built a very powerful engine to make these migration assessments very easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through a little demo. So the very first step is I'm going to take Oracle SQL Developer. I'm going to show you the demo, the objects and the database that we're going to use. So the very first thing here, what we did is we took the Oracle HR example that every Oracle DBA is familiar with that example. So that example has a whole bunch of tables in it. So come on, I'm connecting to an Oracle database in the cloud. This is my first operation on it today. So maybe I should have sacrificed more donuts this morning. So. So basically, these tables will be things like the employees, the work that they've done. Okay. Okay. Come on, tables. Okay. So got a little challenge here connecting to my Oracle database in the cloud. Sorry about that. So there's a number of tables in there, and again, everybody knows about those tables. Now, what we did is the standard example has a number of stored procedures, but they're extremely simple stored procedures for the add job history and secure the DML. So what we did is we added a package, okay, just to show the power of being able to migrate from Oracle to EDB Postgres, and what the migration portal and EDB Postgres can really do for you. They're relatively simple stored procedures. So the package here that we defined has a function and a procedure in it, a function to update the salary of an individual employee, and a procedure to implement update the salaries in a whole department. The reason I'm showing you this is it's a simple stored procedure that has a cursor, a loop, does fetching, etc. So it's a pretty standard Oracle stored procedure that we're going to migrate here. Okay. So when I go to the migration portal, which is the next thing I'm going to do here, I've already logged into the migration portal. I'm just going to log out and show you what the access to the migration portal looks like. So in here, just like what Kanchan showed before, I'm going to go to the migration portal. I'm going to start a migration today. I'm going to log in, which is the same login that Kanchan showed you before. And in that migration portal, then you'll see there's a complete set of instructions for how to use it, how to get started, a quick start guide. And there's also something that we call the DDL extractor. That's the very first thing that you're going to run. The DDL extractor, we make that available to you in clear text. Now, you may wonder, why are you doing that? Okay. Well, we're doing it because we want the Oracle DBA to know very clearly what are all the things that we're extracting and what is the script that he or she is about to run against their database. Okay. So I have an Oracle D extractor. I've loaded it here, and it's a well-documented script that basically is going to create a text extract of the Oracle schema. I'm going to run that right here. I'll show you how that runs. I'm going to connect as system when I'm running this. And obviously it takes a second for this to start up. Okay, and what this script basically does, it's going to extract all the data about this schema here. So I'm going to say, okay, extract everything from the HR schema, put it into a default location, and you can see how it's iterating through everything in the database. And it's going to write all that information as a clear text DDL into a file. Okay, that clear text DDL is going to have all the declarations in it, etc. And again, before you upload this to the portal, you can just take a look at this text, at this file, and make sure that we're not getting any information that you don't want us to get. So that's also why we provide the script as a script that you can inspect and run, and then again it creates a text file that you can inspect before you actually upload it to us. Okay. So I'm going to show you what the output of this script is. Okay. A second here. Starting this app. Give you that visibility. So basically, all this is all the DDLs that make up your database. We do that by querying the catalogs and then extracting all the information. So in the background now, my analyzer here has continued to run. And because I'm running this off an Oracle database on a T2 micro on RDS Oracle, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So it wrote out this file here, which is equivalent to the file that we just inspected. So after I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the migration portal, and I'm creating a project here. I'm going to call this project test. And I'm going to choose a file, which is the file that we just looked at here. Okay, so this was the file that we just extracted. Okay, and I'm going to run the assessment here. So the assessment of that file, obviously it's a small file. It has 26 objects in it. That was blazingly fast. It told me here, hey, you got one failure. And we built this failure in because actually the standard HR example is parsed automatically. I built this failure in just to have something that I can show you. And so what we did here is we created a view that while it works in Oracle, as such cannot be used in EDB Postgres. The error message here tells me that the function bit and is not supported. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to go to my knowledge base. I'm going to look up bit and. I'm finding an entry here, and it tells me, okay, the function bit and is not supported, but the equivalent is an operator in Postgres. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this here, put an operator in, and run this assessment again. And it's going to come back and say, hey, now everything is hunky-dory. What I did in the background before the webinar, I already created a target database that we're going to load into, and I created that target database in CDS. Okay, created in the US West region. I'll show you that target database that we created in CDS, and we're going to use that as our target for the migration. Okay, so I have a demo database here. It's very ingeniously named. Okay, and so I'm going to load my data into this database. I've also connected pgadmin to that database here, and you can see, okay, I already have a test database, but right now it only has a schema for public in it. So I'm going to go back here to my migration portal. I'm now going to say, okay, export this. I could export it and download it as a SQL file, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move it straight to CDS. I'm going to say, okay, everything that was in that definition is what I want to export. I'm going to go pick up my URL for my target database here. Paste that in there, provide my login information, test my connection.
HTTP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, connected successfully, and I'm going to go and deploy my definitions here. Okay, so it's done. If you want to, you could download the summary of all the action that happened. I'm just going to go to pgadmin 4 here. I go to my test database. I'm going to refresh everything here, and you can now see I have my HR schema. It's all here. It's here with my packages. It's here with my tables, etc. Okay. Obviously, when I look at my tables now, when I look at the data, they're still empty because all I did was move the definitions. I'm going to run EDB standard data migration tool called MTK, which is going to push the data now from my Oracle database into my new Postgres database in the cloud. Okay, so it's going to do all of its work, quickly move the data from that little database. Okay, I'm going to go back to pgadmin here. I'm going to rerun my query, and you can now see that I actually have my data. Okay, now to here we have the stored procedures, etc., that were there, and just to kind of make this demo complete, I'm going to show you that yeah, we can indeed run the queries, right? I can run the stored procedure. Okay, and when I run the stored procedure, my results have actually changed. Okay, so what's interesting here, it's a simple example. We can make the code available to anybody who wants to, kick the tires, give it a try. But the important element here is assessing compatibility of an Oracle database for migration to EDB Postgres is really, really easy. It's completely, you just download that assessment script, you run it, you upload that data, get the results back. We provide a work environment, knowledge base, everything to keep on to work with that. You can then apply it to a CDS test database or a trial database where you can run it for a week without spending a dime, without giving us a credit card, anything. Okay, so trying out if it works, if this is just talk or if there's reality to this, is really, really, really straightforward. Okay, so let me just go back to my slides here. Okay, so EDB Postgres is really key, we believe, to the Oracle migrations because it has the proven Oracle compatibility inside the database with native PLSQL, with the packages, things like hints, etc. That's all there. The database drivers, so that the application doesn't have to change. That's really, really important. Okay, and then you land in a place on CDS that's immediately highly available. Every cluster you create there has replicas, as many as you want to. It's very easy to use, as Kanchan showed you, and I really encourage you to give it a try. Adding capacity, removing capacity, saying what the failover thresholds are or the capacity increase thresholds are. All of that is really, really straightforward. Okay, and then that is easily linked with the migration portal. So moving data back and forth there is really, really easy. So it's an easy and cost-effective way to migrate from Oracle to Postgres in the cloud. Okay, so at this point, I want to get started with the questions. I know there was quite a few questions coming in.
Yes. So one of the questions that we have is, how does CDS differ from other offerings out there today, like RDS?
Okay, one of the key things, so there's really three things that are important. First is, with CDS, you get access to our support organization. And these are not just the people who make sure that you have ping, pipe, and power, which is what most cloud providers provide, but actually there's Postgres knowledgeable experts at the other end of the phone line. They have an SLA, they'll talk, they'll be with you within 15 minutes. There's a, if there's an escalation required because there's a real bug, they'll be able to get to product engineering very, very quickly. So you have the whole power of the leading Postgres provider behind your cloud database. You don't have that with any of the other providers. That's the first thing. The second thing is native Oracle compatibility. So if you want to get off Oracle, which is what 71% of the people on this call wanted to do, it's basically the only game in town, because everybody else tells you, oh, just go rewrite your logic, which, is for most people just not acceptable. Okay? And then the last thing is, it's really, really easy to use. When you set it up, you just say, I want a cluster, and boom, you get a cluster. And what's cool about a cluster is inherently highly available. It's inherently resilient, and it comes with point-in-time recovery. It comes with encryption on the disk. It comes with provision IOPS. All those capabilities are there. Those are all things that if you were a dyed-in-the-wool 20-year Postgres veteran, you could write your own, no doubt about that. But it would take you hours or days, even if you're really good at it. And here you can have it within minutes. Okay. So those three things is really the the last one is your DBA on your own database, right? So if you're into Postgres, then you will know and understand the value of having access to Alter System. On EDB Postgres in the cloud, you have access to Alter System, and we trust you with that access. All the other managed service providers have disabled that access. We give it to you so you can actually do everything in the database that you would do if this database was running in your own data center. And that for us is really, really important.
All right, we have another question. While migrating, does the data come to local laptop and then go to CDS?
No. The data, actually, we establish a data link. The migration tool, which is installed on your local laptop, establishes a link to your Oracle database and another link to the cloud database or Postgres on-premises if you want to, and then it shovels that data across. Standard setup is 2 JDBC connections. The higher performance setup will use OCI and partition tables. So the data is not copied locally first. It flows across from Oracle to Postgres.
All right, I have another question for you. Are there any storage size limitations? Can 30 terabytes be supported in AWS?
Yes. The AWS can support 30 terabytes, if we work with you, we just want to make sure that you provision the database with the sufficient IOPS so that you can get access to those, because I assume that's also a database that has a lot of activity, not just 30 terabytes of dormant data. So we need to make sure that there is enough IOPS provision, but for the rest, AWS, so EC2 can handle that absolutely well.
All right, and then we have one more question. Is this the same Oracle compatibility that one would get on premises, or is something missing?
It's absolutely the same Oracle compatibility. So the same, all the same features are there. It's as I said before, it's the same Postgres everywhere, right? So there's nothing missing, whether you deploy this on in CDS or on premises or in containers. It's always the same Postgres.
All right, that looks like all the questions that we have time for today. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We will be sharing this recording along with the slides as soon as possible. I hope you have a great rest of your day.